So what this is a cordwood structure, and for those of you not familiar with cordwood, it has sort of a mortar mix. It has wet cedar sawdust mixed in with the mortar to kind of slow down the drying process so that it doesn't shrink as much when it's drying. These walls are 16 inches thick, about 5 inches of mortar on the outside, about 5 inches of mortar on the inside, and about 5 inches of sawdust that's been mixed with lime, cedar sawdust mixed with lime on the inside. And what that does is act as an insulation and a thermal break. And if there's any cracks coming in here around the outside of the logs, that insulation will keep the air from moving through. A lot of times with cordwood structures you'll see or read about sort of shrinkage in the logs and some of the cracks that can form along the logs, and certainly that's happened here in the south facing portion of the wall because it's very dry and desiccating environment, so the logs have shrunken up a little bit more than elsewhere. But generally that can be avoided.
I see you kind of plugged some cracks there.
It's true, and I did not actually buy that caulking. I scrounged it from an abandoned cabin, so therefore, you know, I feel like it's I'm karmically all right with that, but that's less than ideal. Some of these cracks in the bigger logs can be avoided by splitting the logs up, but I really wanted to maintain these, especially these really big ones. I wanted to maintain that look in the structure. In order to avoid getting those the logs drying and those cracks forming, you really have to dry the wood for this wood was dried for over 2 years. So this type of building requires a lot of forethought, and you have to have some covered space that's somewhat dry. So not for everybody, you know. So this building, it took several years to build. It's cordwood's very labor intensive as a building style. I started about 4 years ago, and it's 2011 now, maybe 5 years ago. Cost-wise, this entire structure is probably under $2,500. These all came out of the river. I was doing a wetland restoration project, and there had just been a big flood, and these were strewn across the field, and the bark was conveniently already removed by the flooding process. You know, although there was some rocks jammed in there from hitting sand along the way down the river, so it was a little harder on my chainsaw. But yeah, these rocks are all from less than a mile away, different rock slides. The windows are all used windows that I got at the used building supply store. This structure features the water catchment system model. This one's even simpler. There's no drain pipe. It just comes in and pours out right down there. And this is maybe not drinking water, but perfect for dishes or other utilitarian uses. Let's take a look inside, shall we? All right, here this is.
Oh, it smells nice.
Yeah, it sure does. The cedar makes a great blend. Most of this interior was pretty cheap. I mean, the ceiling and all of the bed structure is maple from the property. It's pretty labor intensive. I had it milled up and then I planed it all, and that's very labor intensive. This was almost all found. This a friend, his roommate had left this. He'd worked at a granite place and left that in the yard. And this I found in an abandoned cabin. This wood I found in an abandoned cabin. And the stove I actually found with the hoses in the metal recycling bin at the dump, along with this and these things. The fire tools. Stove my friend gave me. The biggest expense in this cabin is the insulated stovepipe, which is runs about $30 a foot. So that's going to be most expensive. This is slate. It's an old chalkboard. I lived in an old school building for a while, so I took some of the chalkboards with me when I left. So what this stove has is the ability to heat up the room very quickly. So if you were to come in and the building would be cold, you could get it warm very quickly with a steel stove. However, if you let the fire go out, it would cool down very quickly because the walls would not have absorbed all of that heat. The walls have the potential to absorb a lot of heat. So with the steel stove, you really have to keep it burning for a while until this inside layer of mortar here fully absorbs all the heat. And then once it has, it'll stay pretty warm for about 24 hours. There are, you know, some of the cracks around the logs, and I haven't actually lived in here, so I'm mostly just going off of feedback by the people that have stayed in here. And it seems pretty easy to keep warm in the winter once you get this thermal mass on the inside warmed up. But one of the big drawbacks to having a house with a lot of thermal mass is that if you're gone for a while and you come back and the thermal mass has cooled down, it's going to take a long time to heat back up. And that's why I have a steel stove in here, so you can at least heat up the air in the room very fast. If you have a cast iron stove that's slow to heat up, then you're waiting for the stove to heat up, and then you have to wait for the walls to heat up. It's going to be a much longer process. So
I've heard some people talk about cordwood buildings before and how they feel like the wind just blows right through the walls for all the wood cracks and where the wood has shrunk away from the cement. But it looks like this one's got a real tight seal. Have you had any reports of people talking about the wind blowing through?
Not really. I mean, I guess it's sort of relative to people's life experiences, and so a lot of people that were staying in here haven't lived in a lot of different structures. So to really get that knowledge, I'd have to stay in here during a windy night and figure it out. I mean, the advantage the building has is that it's so small. With a wood stove this big in such a small space, we have more than enough capacity here to heat the structure. One other drawback that I would like to mention is the roundness. People often think, you know, round, groovy, I want to live in a round home. After doing the interiors on a couple of round dwellings, I found that it's very hard to do the cabinetry, and cordwood especially is going to be very hard because you have this relief, this natural relief in the wall with logs coming out and going in. So if you want to get a shelf to meet up with the wall, each one has to be custom cut. And because the structure is round, it makes it even more complex. So don't think I'll be doing it again. But it was fun. It was fun when I did it.
If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at permies.com, where we talk about alternative building, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.
I just installed these buttons the other day.
What do the buttons do?
I haven't decided yet. But,